By the time we reach 2035, intelligence won't be something we log into or switch on. It will be embedded in everything around us. It will shape how we think, how we decide, how we collaborate. It will sit quietly in the background of every workflow, every tool, every system we rely on. And that raises a deeper question than most people are asking right now. Not whether work will change, because that part is already obvious. The real question is how quickly that change accelerates, and more importantly, who is actually prepared to thrive when it does. Welcome back to the B.I. channel. I'm Nakul Nikima. In our last episode, we explored how intelligence is reshaping identity at a personal level. Today, we take that same conversation and move it into the professional world. Because identity doesn't stop at who you are. It extends into what you do, how you contribute, and how you create value. So today we're asking a big question. What does the workforce become when intelligence is no longer a tool, but the foundation of productivity itself? To unpack this, I'm joined again by three returning voices who each see this transformation from very different angles. Stella, let's start with you.
It's good to be here. And honestly, this conversation is overdue. A lot of people are still thinking about the future of work in terms of automation replacing tasks. That's only a small piece of the picture. What we're really looking at is a complete redesign of how work is structured, how value is defined, and how humans fit into the system.
Dr. Ruiz, welcome back.
Thank you. From my perspective, what's happening is not just external. It's deeply internal. People are being asked to adapt cognitively and emotionally to a world where intelligence is constantly augmenting their thinking. That changes how we learn, how we cope, and how we define our own competence.
And Aiden.
Great to be here. What excites me is that we're moving into an era of hybrid intelligence. Work is no longer human or machine. It's a collaboration layer between both. And once you understand that, everything else starts to make more sense.
Let's zoom out and start with the big picture. When we say, workforce of 2035, what does that actually look like on a day-to-day level? Not theory, but lived reality.
It looks fluid. That's probably the most important shift. The idea of a fixed role, a static job description, even a long-term position at a single company, those begin to dissolve. Instead, people move across projects. They contribute to outcomes rather than occupy positions. And that means your identity in the workforce becomes less about your title and more about your capabilities.
And those project environments are not just human teams anymore. You're working alongside autonomous agents, simulation systems, and adaptive intelligence layers that are constantly learning from the same environment you are. So when you log into work, you're not just collaborating with people. You're stepping into an ecosystem, which has a psychological impact that we can't ignore. Because when intelligence systems begin supporting decisions, suggesting actions, even predicting outcomes, workers start to question their own role. Am I deciding, or am I validating what the system suggests? That tension becomes part of daily work life.
So we're not just talking about different tools. We're talking about a fundamentally different experience of work.
Exactly. The repetitive layers disappear into the background. What remains is interpretation, judgment, decision-making in complex, ambiguous situations. That's where humans spend most of their energy. And speed increases dramatically. Because when intelligence systems handle the groundwork, humans are operating at a higher level by default. That compresses timelines, raises expectations, and changes what productive even means.
Let's talk about skills then. If the foundation shifts, the skill map has to change with it. What becomes essential in this new landscape?
One of the most critical skills is cognitive flexibility. The ability to shift between ways of thinking, to learn quickly, and to adapt without becoming overwhelmed. Because the environment won't be stable. Tools will change. Systems will evolve. And the people who struggle are the ones who expect consistency.
I would add interpretation to that. We tend to underestimate how important it is to understand context, nuance, and meaning. Intelligent systems can process data, but they don't fully grasp intention, culture, or human complexity. That becomes the human advantage. And then there's systems thinking. You can't operate effectively in a 2035 workplace if you only see your piece of the puzzle. You need to understand how decisions ripple through an entire network, how one input affects multiple outputs. That's how you collaborate with intelligent systems rather than just react to them.
So it's less about memorizing information and more about navigating complexity.
Exactly. Information becomes abundant. What's scarce is meaning.
Now let's flip this. If certain skills become more valuable, certain roles inevitably do too. Which human roles actually expand in this kind of economy?
Strategic roles grow significantly. People who can see patterns across large datasets, connect seemingly unrelated dots, and guide direction in uncertain environments. That kind of thinking becomes incredibly valuable.
Relational roles also expand. Coaching, therapy, leadership, negotiation. Anything that requires emotional intelligence, trust building, and human connection. Because even in an intelligence-rich world, humans still need other humans to process experience.
And design roles take on a new dimension. Not just designing products or experiences, but designing intelligent systems themselves. Deciding how they behave, how they interact with users, what boundaries they operate within. That's a massive responsibility.
So instead of being replaced, humans are moving into more complex, more interpretive roles.
Exactly. The ceiling rises.
But at the same time, there's another side to this. Not every role makes that transition smoothly. Which roles begin to disappear or fundamentally transform?
Anything rooted in repetition. If a task is predictable, rule-based, and scalable, it gets absorbed by intelligent systems. That's just the reality.
Roles that depend heavily on memory or manual processing also fade. Because those are exactly the things intelligent systems excel at. And for many people, that creates identity friction. They've built their sense of value around those capabilities.
The key distinction is evolution. Roles don't just vanish. Many of them transform into hybrid roles. But the ones that don't adapt, the ones that stay rigid, those are the ones that disappear.
So the risk isn't automation alone. It's stagnation.
Exactly.
Let's move into leadership. Because if the workforce changes this dramatically, leadership can't stay the same. What does a leader look like in 2035?
Leaders become orchestrators. They're not just managing people. They're coordinating humans and intelligent systems at the same time. They're designing environments where both can perform optimally.
They also need to understand intelligence architecture. Not at a deep technical level necessarily, but enough to know how systems behave, where they fail, and how they integrate into workflows. You can't lead what you don't understand.
And there's a human layer that becomes even more important. Leaders have to guide people through emotional transitions. Because this shift is disorienting. It challenges competence, identity, and confidence. Leadership becomes as much about psychological support as it is about strategy.
So leadership expands in two directions at once. Technical awareness and emotional intelligence.
Exactly. And neglecting either one creates instability.
There's one more layer we need to talk about, and it's not as comfortable. Access. Because transformations like this don't impact everyone equally. Who gets left behind in an intelligence-driven workforce?
The most immediate divide is access to tools. If you don't have access to intelligence systems, you're already operating at a disadvantage. That gap compounds very quickly.
There's also a design gap. If certain groups are excluded from building these systems, their needs aren't reflected in how the systems operate. And that creates structural inequality.
And then there's the human adaptation gap. Not everyone is given the support to transition cognitively and emotionally. Some people are expected to just keep up, without guidance, without training, without space to adjust. That's where we see stress, burnout, and disengagement.
So the future of work isn't just a technological challenge. It's a societal one.
Absolutely. The question is not just what we build, but who we build it for.
If we bring all of this together, what emerges is a very different picture of the workforce than what most people imagine. It's not a story of humans being replaced. It's a story of humans being stretched, expanded, pushed into new forms of thinking, new forms of collaboration, new forms of identity. And maybe the real challenge isn't whether we can build intelligent systems. It's whether we can evolve alongside them fast enough, thoughtfully enough, and inclusively enough. Stella, Elena, Aiden, thank you for helping us see this more clearly.
Thank you.
It's been a powerful conversation.
Glad to be part of it.
And to everyone listening, this is just one step in understanding the intelligence economy. Because the future of work isn't waiting. It's already unfolding. You just have to decide how you're going to meet it.